One time for your mind. It is Malls back again for another episode of The Breakdown. This is my series where I deconstruct and break down the lyrics to songs from my new album called A Subtle Reminder. You can pick up A Subtle Reminder produced by Sharp Cuts on my Bandcamp, malls.bandcamp.com. I do have physical copies available. It's also available on your Spotify, your Apple Music, and what have you. I'll have links in the description below where you can check that out and get all my other music as well. This week, we are going to be doing the last song on the album, track 13, called Lovin' Rockets. So, if you haven't gathered from some of the previous episodes or some of my lyrics, I have a lot of comic book influences, references in my song titles and my lines, and this one is no exception. Lovin' Rockets is a comic book series written and drawn by the Hernandez brothers, Jaime and Gilbert Hernandez. Very popular, influential, kind of, I guess, off the beaten path. It's not your Marvel DC superhero comics. They're kind of like slice of life comics, and they do have a little bit of a maybe sci-fi element to some of the stories. But it's just excellent comics. I highly recommend them if you are into comic books and maybe not so much into the superhero genre. But Lovin' Rockets, that's where I get the title from. It's a comic book. What I tend to do with my albums is I like to have a, one long verse to intro my album. And sometimes I like to have just like a hard hitting, bookend to end my album with. This time I chose to go, I guess, the sentimental route. And I wanted to do like a shout out track. And I've done shout out tracks before. And I kind of told myself that I would stop doing them because what happens is the people who I shouted out would never hear these songs. They would never listen to the album. So I'm like, man, fuck that. I'm not doing any more shout out tracks. So this time I just decided, you know what? In the spirit of my previous album supposedly being my last album, I do want to kind of make music not expecting each song to be my last, but just in case I actually do decide to call it quits, I want to make sure I say everything. So I wanted to show appreciation to the people who, A, I knew would listen to the music, and B, people who have really been there for me, my real people. So that's what it kind of started as, but I didn't want the whole song to be just that. And so Lovin' Rockets was the last song that I wrote for the album. It was a beat that was probably on one of the first batch of beats that Sharp sent. And I loved the beat ever since I first heard it. But I was like, what am I going to do with this? It had a familiar sound to it, which just in case Sharp doesn't want any snitching going on, if you are a native tongue fan, then you will recognize or at least a song that used the same sample. So Lovin' Rockets was the last song that I wrote for the album. I wrote it not too long after Al Dunbar, and it might have been recorded at the same time, the same day as Al Dunbar. So that would put it around September 2022 when I wrote this song. And, I did want to just have it not necessarily be so heavy-handed about thanking the people who I appreciate and everything, but I did want to give, just some bars and just do what I do, just malls it up, right? The first 4 bars start out with, fate favors the prepared, always at the ready, do it broke, do it scared, fared better than some others who had all the connections, but they never made the effort, so we cannot be compared. And that's just how I feel stay ready so you won't have to get ready. Fate favors the prepared. I do like to be prepared when I go into the studio. Even when I'm recording myself, I want to make sure I have everything down so that I don't waste a lot of time. I don't like wasting time. I don't like wasting motion. So fate favors the prepared. I'm always at the ready, and I do it broke and I do it scared. Honestly, if I waited until I had like all the resources to make an album, I would have never made an album to this day. You would still have never heard any music from me. Um, like I kind of go into it and just on some like I'm gonna figure it out as I go along as far as like having the financial resources for it. I do tend to um, plan my releases around the time where I get my bonuses from my 9 to 5 so that I will have money to like at least promote it and get the final packaging and everything done. But like, do it broke, do it scared. Like, you're not gonna get as far as you want to go if you're letting fear or if you're letting any kind of excuse. Some things are valid reasons. There are valid reasons why I may have not worked with this producer or that producer because, like, I can't afford that producer, and the payment plan that would be affordable for me would not even be worth it to that said producer. So there's reasons why you do things, but you still shouldn't let those reasons dictate why you don't do something at all. You may have to alter it the way you do it, but don't let it keep you from doing what you're trying to do. So I say, fare better than some others who had all the connections, but they never made the effort. I've been in this game for a long time, and I've seen people who knew all the right people. They were cool with all the right people. People loved them, but they didn't put effort into either their craft or even just working something. They'll put out a song and then it's like, hey, it's out, and then that's it. You won't hear anything else about the song from them. Like, here it is. I released this album in May. It's the end of the year almost. It's October, and I'm still promoting it. Like, you got to put in the effort. You have to, don't just put your hard work into making a song or making an album, or even if it's not music, making something, and then just once it's done, like, okay, now it's done. Like, you have to make it worth it. And so I think that's what separates me from a lot of my peers is the fact that, I put in the effort. I put in extra effort. I feel like I have to work probably twice as hard as other people who may be more popular as far as like people just, them being out and about and people recognizing them and knowing them. So I feel like I kind of have to work twice as hard in that respect. So it's maximum effort for me. So the next 4 bars are: a lone wolf without the cub, drop you on your head, you're begging coach for a sub. Most dominant, I work the angles while you fish for compliments. 90 in the shade, chilling no matter how hot it is. So in this part, I fucked up. So I think it may have been that week or maybe the night that I wrote this. I was watching Lone Wolf and Cub because they're on HBO Max or just Max, whatever the fuck it's called now. A lot of the Lone Wolf and Cub movies are on Max, so I was watching a couple of them. So I just decided, like, okay, that'll be the segue into the next part, Lone Wolf and Cub. But where I fucked up is instead of saying drop 50 on your head, you're begging coach for a sub, I said drop you on your head, you're begging coach for a sub. It was supposed to be a basketball reference because Damian Lillard has just dropped 50 points on somebody. I can't remember who the Trailblazers played. This is back when he played for the Trailblazers. I forgot who they played, but he just dropped a 50 ball, and I was like, yeah, that's going in the verse. Drop 50 on your head, begging coach for a sub. And then when I recorded it, I just said drop you on your head, you begging coach for a sub. Which it still works. It's not as effective, and I didn't even realize it until like it was all recorded and done. And then the next line is just going back to my work ethic, most dominant. I work the angles while you fish for compliments. Like, some people just want to get props. Some people just want to drop something and say, like, and have people say, "Oh, that's dope," and that's enough for them, which is cool. It's not enough for me though. Like, I need more than just compliments and stuff. I appreciate the compliments. I welcome the compliments. I would like the compliments, but I also want more. So the next 4 lines is: calm under pressure, pushing product cross-continent, and still at my best when I feel a drop in confidence. All jokes aside, had to keep my stride. felt the urge to quit while my name was on the rise. And so that's, staying calm under pressure, which goes back into that previous line, had to make it about something, right? So calm, I'm 90 in the shade, chilling no matter how hot it is. I'm calm under pressure. Push your product cross continent, pushing this album cross continent, selling it from east, west, north, south, overseas, and all that, and I'm still at my best when I feel a drop in confidence. And I feel like not a whole lot of rappers will admit this, but like, even though I'm one to rap about how dope I am and just give you like fly bars and a lot and just bar out, sometimes I do feel that drop in my self-confidence and like, man, maybe this ain't the one. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. But despite those thoughts, I still try to push through it and make myself believe like, no, I'm going to make something that's undeniable to me. Whether someone else doesn't think is dope, something that I think is dope. And that in turn kind of helps boost my confidence. So even when I feel a drop in confidence, I'm still trying to push myself to be better. Felt the urge to quit while my name was on the rise. So that's going back to my previous album, Famous Last Words, which I had planned on being my last album, but as you know, it was not. So I felt the urge to quit while my name was on the rise. And so this last section here is where I start to get into my thank yous and my shout outs of the people. I start this section out with, kept my head throughout the dark when all I had was pride. One time for Sharp and Sice for being down for the ride. Me, Mark, Double S, Tower Sham, Adolescence. 20 years of brotherhood. I wish you much success. So I just shouting out Precise Politics and Sharp Cuts. Those are my brothers. They've definitely held me down. Throughout the making of Famous Last Words and this album, all the time in between when I was going through my health scare, they were really there for me. And then some guys that you probably don't know, me, Mark, Sham, Tower T, Adolescent. Those are my brothers from college. We had a rap group called Secret Society, aka Double S. So I put them in the rhyme too, because we have just recently, within the past couple of years of writing this song, we recently all kind of reconnected together. And started building. So I definitely wanted to shout them out because they were really huge in me becoming the rapper and the MC that I am today. So I definitely wanted to shout them out and just shout out that 20 years of brotherhood, because we hadn't talked prior to 2020. We hadn't talked for years. And when we kind of reconnected, it was like no time had passed at all. Like we just picked up right where we left off. And then I end the song with just a few in my tribe, impossible to name them each. Love and miss you every day, rest in peace, Lady V. K Hill for the game and Comanche for the lane. This indie shit could be a dream, just remember why you came. So again, like there's way more people that I could have shouted out who would have heard this because they would have listened to it, but it'd be impossible to just name everyone, and then you start to get into that, well, why didn't you name me thing, even though I didn't get that on this album. Again, I kept it to the people who I knew would listen. And I had to shout out Lady V, who had passed away not long before I wrote this. We were really tight. She was really big in like encouraging me as far as doing my music. She was a big supporter and cheerleader. A lot of people knew Lady V, and she was loved by a whole lot of people. And she passed away not long before I started working on this album. So I had to shout her out. And then my OGs and mentors, K Hill and Cesar Comanche, have been huge for me, at least within the past 8 to 10 years since I moved to Raleigh. Just K Hill and really I could have switched up. I could have said K Hill for the lane and Comanche for the game, because they both gave me so much game as far as like moving in this indie rap space directly, and also just by watching. Cesar Comanche is part of the Justice League. Just watching their whole movement when they started out. I was in college in Greenville, and just watching how they did their, how they made their moves and everything, and then meeting him and getting to know him and going out on the road with him and forming like a friendship and a brotherhood with him, and just him talking about those days and just giving me so much game and creating that lane, because before them, like, we really didn't have this lane of like this North Carolina sound that people like to call. And the same with K Hill, because he was right along with them. He wasn't in the Justice League, but he was right along with them, carving that space for like lyrical boom bap traditional hip hop sound. And they both have given me like so much advice, so many jewels. They've paved the way, even though they're only a couple of years older than me. Still, I kind of look at them for pioneers as far as my career go. And they were someone that both of them, I was always chasing, and still in some ways now I'm still chasing them. So I definitely had to shout them out and had to, save the most influential for last. And then I like to wrap it up with, this indie shit can be a drain. Just remember why you came. And that is essentially the theme of A Subtle Reminder for me. Is like, okay, I know I said I wanted to quit because of just the drain and the rat race and the sometimes diminishing returns on this investment. But just remember why you came. Remember why you started this. Remember that love that you have for the music and the culture and just creating in general. Not necessarily just creating in general, like this song was for all the people that I mentioned, just to shout them out and show appreciation. But it was also for me, that last line specifically, the shit could be a drain. Just remember why you came. Like, remember why you do this. And then that's the album, man. That's the last song. I definitely couldn't have done this without Sharp Cuts, obviously, who produced it. He recorded it, he mixed it, he mastered it. Like, I can't say enough about my brother, man. Sharp Cuts and Precise Politics. Shout out to DJ Myth, who laid cuts on Hampton Inn. Shout out to DJ Jazz Pants, who did the artwork for the album. Shout out to you for watching these video breakdowns, and anyone who has purchased the album, streamed it, added it to their playlist, put their people on. I thank you so much. I honestly could not do this without you guys. That shit keeps me going. I'm self-motivated, but some outside, appreciation definitely puts the battery in my back. And I want to thank all of y'all. So again, A Subtle Reminder is available anywhere you get music. Malls.bandcamp.com. If you are the type to want to support the artist directly, that's the best way to get it. But put it on your Spotify, put it on your Apple Music, your Tidal, and all that stuff too. That helps as well. Put your people on. This has been The Breakdown. My name is Malls. I'm out of here. Peace.